Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played recently, where what ended up happening is that we got into a very complicated endgame where I was winning, but, well, disaster struck. Either way, let's get into the game. I start off the game with d4. My opponent decides to play the move g6. Here I can play a couple of things, but what I've been mainly doing against g6 is I really like this idea with d4 bishop with e4 bishop g7 and f4, which is the 3 pawns attack. And I really like these positions because I can immediately get some play in the center. I can lock him down in some positions, and I can even get c4 if the time is required. Not now. I just don't really enjoy playing 4 pawns attack early on like this, but it's of course a line, and it's something that I have to be wary of. My opponent goes d5 though, and this kind of already gives white a pretty nice, pleasant position early on after the move e5. And it's tough to see how black is going to be able to recover from this. My opponent goes knight h6, obviously knowing some theory here. I go knight f3, and my opponent decides to play the move bishop to g4. And already, as you can see, white has a +1 advantage. And this is basically just because of space. If not for like the space advantage here, I wouldn't really have that much of an advantage. Like obviously, if we didn't have these pawns forward, I wouldn't have that much space. But for now, my opponent has a hard time developing pieces. If they castle, they're kind of already underway of some attack. Their knight is kind of on the edge of the board. And what they do here, they just kind of make it worse because now if they move h3 and bishop takes f3, of course you can't go back due to the move g4, winning the bishop. And if you come back like this, then this would be a waste of time, and I would be able to get some good stuff going. So he has to go bishop takes f3 and queen takes f3. White is just very easily better, and this is because black has kind of misplayed the opening in a way. What black is normally trying to do in these positions after f4 is normally what black does is they play the move d6 and try to play for some e5 in the future after I develop some pieces and they develop some pieces. This is normally how black is able to get some counterplay, but with the way that black has done it here, black is just completely locked down. It's just permanently locked down. My opponent goes e6. Okay. I don't really understand. Okay, I mean, like, it's fine, right? But you're not really doing anything with the move e6, right? Like, you're not really making me have to think at all. So I'm just going to play normal moves. One thing I could do here that would be a little bit interesting is this move g4. It doesn't really look correct because of queen h4, but after queen f2, takes. Basically, I'm just arguing that the knight is really bad. And for example, if you castle, like, you're gonna have to play king h8, the knight back, and in the meantime, I'm gonna be able to get some very easy play with moves like c4, for example. And I'm like quickly able to get my bishop out, my knight out, if I can draw arrows, knight here, and get some play over on either the queen side or the king side. It doesn't really matter because white is just dominating everywhere. Bishop d3 though is the move that I chose because I didn't think anything could be really bad with this move, and an idea in the future that I had was g4 and f5, which is a common play of attacking black in these openings. My opponent goes knight d7. Again, the move g4 is very strong here. I don't really find it. Instead, I go with bishop e3 because it's another move that you normally play here, simply keeping defense of this pawn. And I realized what my opponent wanted to do is he wanted to play the move c5. So of course, bishop d3 would stop this move because c5 would simply be a loss of a pawn. Actually, it's still the best move for black because black has a really bad position here. They can try to win back the pawn, for example, like just to show you why this is not good. Like if you win back the pawn, I get. First of all, this move, knight d7, and this is actually just crushing for white. Like, very funny here. The best move here is long castles and going after this pawn. Like, I get sacrifices. Knight d5, right? You can't take because of this fork, attacking the queen and the king. And the game just kind of spirals out of control for black if they grab that pawn. So they decide not to play c5 in the game. Because, I mean, no normal human would just sack a pawn like that. It doesn't really make much sense. I guess one of the ideas is to play d5 in the future, but it doesn't matter. Instead, they play b6, attempting to play c5 again. And here, I find a very nice line to solidify my advantage. I find the move c4 now. And what this does is I'm utilizing the point of why b6 is so bad, because now my queen has this attack on the rook, and this pawn is actually pinned. So the pressure on this pawn is really, really powerful. I thought my opponent actually had to had to give up the pawn here. I thought my opponent probably had to play c5, for example. Just simply give up this pawn, because white just has nothing. Black just has nothing. Sorry. Actually, here I have knight c3. Okay, whatever. Don't care, computer. But yeah, this is just, I just thought that this was probably what my opponent had to do and just get into a much worse position, because there's really nothing else you can do. For example, the top engine line of this position is to play d takes c4. Okay, maybe I'm stupid. That is defended. Okay, I need to take a second. Okay, reoriented myself. This is not very good. Not because the rook is hanging, stupid. This is not very good because after bishop takes c4, I'm able to get good play with this, and I'm able to play the move d4 in the future. That's why that's not very good. It's not a good sign, because you might know what happens in this game if I'm not thinking properly even after the game. But that's not good, because that was my main idea of the move c4 actually. That's really, really bad. That's really, really bad. But yeah, either way, he plays c6. I simply decide to castle my king because I thought, okay, getting a rook on this file doesn't seem bad. And after he castles his own king, it just feels like everything in the position is aiming towards some checkmating attack. Since I have 4 pieces over here, my opponent really doesn't have too many defenders. The bishop is the defender. You can argue that knight is a defender. You can argue also that it isn't really a defender, that it's actually hindering the king. And it just feels like my opponent just doesn't have exactly what he needs. And if I find the right move here, I would have probably put the game away right away. Instead, I play knight c3, which is fine, putting pressure on the center. It's totally okay, and I'm also developing a knight. My opponent goes king h8 with the pretty obvious idea to go with... I thought the idea here was to play the move f6 and try to open up the position with my queen on the other side. And the reason why he played king h8 is that he thought that there might be some issues with this pawn being a check, which I thought made sense. I thought that kind of made a decent bit of sense there. And I was like, okay, king h8. Well, now what I have to do, I'm a little bit worried about f6, in all honesty. I'm a little bit scared of f6. Unfortunately, I do have a better move here instead of with the move that I played. I could have immediately played c takes d4, c takes c5, which I find later. I actually find it on the next move, with the idea being that if you take back with this pawn, I thought that this was the idea with knight b5, and I'm immediately getting into this very, very juicy square here. And the other idea is that if you take with this pawn, I thought that now f5 was actually a very, very strong move. And after takes, 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 I mean, okay, look at this position and tell me that white isn't winning. You can't, because it's pretty obvious that white is winning, right? And I just thought, okay, well, that seems pretty reasonable to me. Instead, I didn't see that right away. I played queen e2, just getting out of this attack with the rook, so I'm all good there. And after the move knight to g8, which ended up being his actual idea, okay, I don't really get this move. I guess he thought this knight was so bad that he had to move back. Why not knight f5 first? This seems like a decent idea, because, well, now you moved the king out of the way, so now the g file is open for you, and I'm not attacking you there. I thought that might be the point. I didn't really get this move. Obviously, after knight f5 and g4, you can grab the bishop, and life is good. Is there a better move here? Knight g3 is a simple fork. I'm missing everything today. Either way, knight g8 is the move chosen, and now I find the line with c takes d5. My opponent decides to play e takes d5 because he's a little bit worried about knight b5 here, and this getting in, and yeah, I can tell why you'd be worried. That seems like a very, very strong outpost for the knight. But instead, e takes d5, and I play the move f5. And I'm simply saying, okay, well, now I'm busting open your structure, and it just feels like white is completely winning. First of all, I'm threatening this move, and sacrifices on the g6 pawn in some lines. I can probably get my queen over here to g4, get in the position, and probably just win the game outright here very, very quickly. which is going to be very, very nice. And my opponent really has to figure out a defense here. My opponent goes queen h4, which is a bit of an interesting move. I was thinking of a couple of things. I didn't really like the queen on h4. I was trying to figure out what to do here. I thought bishop f2 didn't make much sense because I just thought just queen f4, and I didn't really understand what I was doing here. Actually, f6 is very, very strong, and after bishop to h6, I have like g3, and the queen is basically getting trapped. You can go here, but then this trade is just actually white is dominating the black pieces with the knight simply being out of the game. This knight also pretty much being out of the game as well, which would be very nice for me. But instead, I was like, I didn't really like bishop f2 because I didn't see a way to do anything there. So I played the move king to h2 with the idea that I'm going to play g3 next, right? That seems pretty natural, and I'm trying to get the queen out of there so then I can keep going with my attack. And my opponent shocks me here with a very, very excellent move. My opponent shocks me with this kind of crazy move, the move knight takes on e5. And, well, the move knight takes on e5 is pretty self-explanatory what it does. The idea is that after I take it, he's going to give me with this check, and then after the move king h1, he has this move d4. At least that's what I thought. Obviously, I'm missing everything today, and like a simple move like bishop f2, opening up attack on the queen just wins the game. Not exactly because of queen f4, but then I can simply go bishop f1 here, bishop g1 here, and this actually is pretty easy to see. And I'm just going to be winning the piece, which is just really easy. So I probably should have just taken the knight, not play what I played. The other move is also really, really easy. It's g3. Like if I just don't want to deal with a check, which of course I don't want to deal with, and I thought this was a problem, I could just play g3 and pick up the knight. Like, okay, why didn't I do this? Because I'm bad today. I'm really, really bad today. Either way, the move that I played, it also kind of makes sense, but g3 was just screaming to be played. I don't know how I missed that move, in all honesty. I played rook at f4, which I thought also made sense. I'm attacking the queen, and I'm blocking this diagonal toward my king, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take next. You're going to come in with the bishop. I'm going to move my bishop somewhere. You're going to take the rook. I'm going to take back. And I don't know, I'm going to have two pieces for the rook, two pieces for the rook, right? And I'm like, well, that's probably a decent position for me. My opponent goes queen h5. I decide to trade the queens off because it just made the most sense to me. I'm getting rid of his pawn defense of the king and doubling his pawns, of course. G takes h5. I take the knight. My opponent takes back with the bishop, and I'm trying to figure out some way to keep the game winning here. One move that I just totally missed during the game, which is just so obvious, I saw this immediately after I played my move, is move bishop to d4, which is a simple pin against the black king, and yeah, this would be winning. I don't know how I missed this. Like, okay, f6, for example, f6, bishop takes e5 takes, let's say rook f2, for example, and yeah, this is just game over. I don't really know what I missed here. I'm just up material. Yeah, either way, I go g3. My opponent takes my bishop. I take back with the bishop, and at the end of the day, the position is winning for white. It's winning because two pieces normally beat a rook, and it's even more helpful when the two pieces are the bishop pair. So yeah. Now, how did I lose this game? f6. Okay, that move doesn't look like it does much. I guess the idea is not to fall to any checks. I go bishop to e2, hitting this pawn. A stupid move again because I'm just really, really bad today. I could have played h4, and then the pawn is basically ungrabbable. I mean, you can't really do anything with the pawn, so I'm just going to win it in the long run. That's also easy to find. I don't know how I didn't find that. Instead, bishop h4, bishop e2 allows the move h4, and this is just stupid. This is just stupid that I allowed this. Now I really have to play the move g4, but for some reason I couldn't realize like how I was able to win this pawn. Now after the game, it's simple, right? I just go here. I just go here and here, if I can draw arrows, here and here, and attack the pawn. There's nothing he can do. But for some reason, I thought that that was impossible. So I played g takes h4. Rook f to e8 as the move chosen. And genuinely, I don't even... This game is just so bad. Like, I don't even want to make a video on this, but I mean, it's kind of funny, you know? I played bishop f3, which makes sense on its own merit, because, of course, it's bishop f3. I'm getting out of the rook spin. I'm not allowing this to be a problem, because, of course, I put my knight in the center. It's a problem originally if I do anything, because losing the defender of the bishop, right? So bishop f3. My opponent goes knight to e7, hitting my pawn. Now I move my bishop another time to the g4 square. I don't know why I didn't go there immediately if I wanted to. Or bishop to d3, defending the pawn like this. Many options there, but no, I'm not smart enough to find any of them. Bishop f3, knight e7, bishop to g4. My opponent goes d4, and I go with the move knight to e2, attacking the pawn, saying that if you're going to push again, that pawn becomes a very big weakness, and I'm going to win it pretty easily. Like, if you push here, I'm just saying, okay, knight d4, I'm coming into this square, I'm coming with my rook over here, and I'm probably just going to win the pawn. Here, knight e6, simple line. I can just go here, and probably I'm just going to win the pawn. Like, I don't really see much of a defense here for black. Either way, c5. That's a good move. I go with the move knight to g3, and of course what I'm trying to do here, there's a couple of things I'm trying to do with knight to g3. I'm defending the pawn, over protecting the pawn. I might want to come in here and attack this and get to this square. That's another thing I want to do. And one other like secret option is by over defending the pawn, I might be able to play like bishop to f3 at some point, which could be a thing. My opponent goes knight to d5. I can't go bishop f3 anymore because, of course, this would be losing both of my bishops, and that would be very bad. Can't really do that. Instead of that, I don't find the right move. I find bishop to g2. Instead of this, I gotta go bishop to h6. Instead of like a million times in this video, but I have to go bishop to h6, not disallow the king from coming out. If the king tries to come out, now bishop f3 is crushing. Not there, of course, this move, because of knight h5. And this is actually game over because I'm threatening this. If you come here, I can simply get my rook to the g file, rook here, and this is just easy. Rook takes g8. If rook takes g8, I win the knight, I win the rook, and if king takes g8, I take the knight here and I get this fork. Not too difficult. I didn't see that though. Set bishop to d2 made a little more sense to me because I'm defending this square to bring my rook in. My opponent goes rook a to d8. I go bishop to f3 now, hitting the knight. Again, I could just do really whatever here. Probably king g2 is a move in this variation. Maybe not actually, because knight e3. I don't know. I think my move is actually kind of fine then. Yeah, okay. Bishop f3 is okay. My opponent goes knight e3. And this is just stupid. This whole game was stupid. I go rook e1, and now I'm losing the game. If I just played like anything here, like probably b3 is winning for white, or at least better for white. If I played bishop to e2, this is probably better for white. If I played where are some of the top engine moves here? Rook c1 makes a lot of sense too. That's the top engine move. Other engine move is h5, but I don't understand that at all. This is just so stupid. Knight e3, I go rook e1. I completely allow the move knight to c4, and I'm already actually in a big issue here because now I have to trade the rooks. I don't expect the rook, and I can't defend this pawn. The reason why I can't defend this pawn is because after the move bishop to c1, he would have rook to e1, taking away my defender. And if I keep trying to defend, he has d3, right? taking away my defender again, and I would be losing. Not that bad, though. Not that bad. I understand that I can't do that. And instead I go bishop to f4, and my idea is that at some point, I might be able to get some counterplay on this pawn and the king. Takes on b2. I go knight to e4, attacking this pawn, which I thought, okay, well, I have to do this now. I don't. I can play bishop to d5 and just... I don't know what this move does. I'm not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what this move does, but it's the move. Oh, that's the idea. Oh, that's cool, actually. The idea is to go like bishop h6 and like go after this pawn this way. That's actually kind of cool. And I'm also disallowing knight c4. Okay, that's kind of cool. Anyway, I go knight e4. My opponent goes king to g7, and I go with the move h5. With the idea, of course, being that I want to come here, and then you won't be able to defend the pawn anymore because of this check picking up the rook. Which is correct, and my opponent has to find the right move here, which he fails to do. He has to go h6, which is not too hard with 6 minutes on the clock. Of course, my 1.5 minutes isn't really looking too good, but with 6 minutes on the clock, you probably are able to find the move h6, and I don't really know why my opponent wasn't able to find this, because to me, it just seems like the most obvious move. You stop me from doing anything, and then I'm just floundering, I'm just lost. But instead he goes knight to d3, hitting my bishop, but now h6, and I'm basically winning. My opponent has to play the move king to h8. Has to. If he doesn't play king to h8, he loses the game. For example, this move I'm able to get bishop to d6, and after this move I get this check, right? And after this move I get this check, right? So he has to play king to h8. Instead of that, he goes king to f7 and just allows me to pick up the rook, but I do it in the wrong way? Ridiculous. I have to play bishop to h5 and win the rook. The other way of winning the rook does not win the game, because knight to d6, the move I played in the game, is only very, very slightly better for white, because I'm not actually getting anything. King e7, knight takes e8, and after knight takes f4, it's a draw. Well, it's almost a draw. White has a very slight advantage, but the difference, actually a moderate advantage. The difference is that after bishop to h5, my opponent has to go king to g8, and then I would get knight to f6 check, and after the move king to h8, bishop takes e8 is much stronger, because after knight to f4, this pawn is basically just promoting, right? The pawn is just game over, right? There's nothing he can do. Also, if here I'm just simply able to save the bishop, right? I would not even be like down material here. Rook e7, knight takes f6, right? And this is probably game over. Either way, knight to d6, king to e7. I take here. He takes my bishop, getting rid of my bishop pair. One little instructive fact: he can't take on e8 with the king, because then I'm able to get bishop b8, for example. Not bishop b8. Okay, I thought it was because my bishop pair is too strong, but no, actually I have to go king to g3 and do this. But this is the best line, because after this move I get bishop 2, not bishop d2, bishop e2. I can't read notation anymore. Knight takes f4 here, 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 and the pawns are stopped. It looks like they're not, but they are. I'm in time. c2, I have bishop to h5 check. Okay. Either way, he takes my bishop. I have to bring out my knight here, and I'm trying to maybe get my knight down. One thing I want to do is trade off this knight, because I thought that would be interesting, because I thought my light squared bishop would be able to defend all these pawns, and my king would be able to walk up here, and life is good. My opponent goes d3, and I'm winning the game. But I'm only winning the game for one move, and this move is a lot harder than I thought, than it originally looks. The move here that wins the game is king to g3. I did not play this move, but king to g3 would be winning the game, because after the move knight to e2 check, I can take. My king is close enough, right? So he can't really do that, and he just has nothing else. He just has nothing else. The move that I played in the game was knight to d5 check. And this is just game over. Because there's nothing I can do. Knight takes on d5. Bishop takes on d5. And it's completely lost, actually. There's genuinely just nothing here. My opponent goes king to d6. I go attack the pawn first, and then I go bishop to b3, trying to stop this pawn from promotion, of course, and I want to come up here. But I'm not fast enough. c4, bishop to d1. Probably it would be more accurate to go bishop to c2, defend this pawn, and then I can lock my king up, and I might be able to draw this. But I go bishop d1, king to e5, I go king to g3, takes, and I'm actually able to draw the game here. King to f3, b5, and the only move that can draw the game is king to e2. And not the move that I played in the game. The reason why the move I played in the game is bad, which doesn't even like remotely make sense in all honesty. The move I played in the game was king to e3, and this is not good. King to e2 is very slightly better because after c3, defending the pawn, I have bishop to c2 check, king to g5, for example, and I can take on h7. And now my king defends this square. That's the difference. I thought this made a lot more sense because now I'm not blocking my bishop's diagonal, which is like correct, kind of, but it doesn't really work out that way. c3, I go with the move a3, trying to stop this pawn from pushing forward the rest of them. My opponent goes a5, I go king to d4, and now this is officially lost. The only move here that I have to find is this move h4, which is genuinely like impossible. And after king to g6, I thought it was king to f4, but this loses. I have to go king to d4 now. And now this is not good, because after this line, king to h6, and I take, his king is way too far away. The difference is that if my opponent here, after the move h4, he would have to play king to e5 because his king has to stay guarding the pawns. After this is actually losing again. Oh my god. Because of this, and he's just able to... No! Oh my god, I'm just so bad. Here and here. This is how he wins. This is how he wins. Okay. Oh my goodness. King to d4 is the move that I chose, and this is wrong because his king is too close, and I'm going to be losing the game. b4 is a miss. King to f4 is a lot better, and getting to the pawn, and he just has two passers, right? This is wrong. b4 takes, and then I make another mistake on top of my mistake. I have to play king back to d3 and guard the king from going to the f4 square. Instead, I go with king to c4 because I haven't learned my lesson yet. King to e4 takes, king to d3, king to b3, f5. I go with this check. Now he's just promoting. I can't stop it anymore. King takes here. He doesn't actually have the time to make a queen. That's one thing that's a little bit tricky because my king is in time. I have opposition, and this would actually be winning. My opponent has to go f4. I go here. My opponent goes king e2, takes here, and at the end of the day, no. What am I missing? Here. King to d3. Oh, right, because I'm not in time to win this pawn, because after I do, he just sticks my king on the side of the board, right? Which would be nice, but my opponent doesn't fall for it. King just takes c3. My opponent goes f4, bishop to d3. I go with some lines here, but there's nothing for me to do, and I just resign in a couple of moves. This game is pretty awful. This game is pretty awful. And this kind of tells me not really to play rapid games if you're not really feeling the best, because I had a bit of a headache while playing this game. I don't know. Honestly, it's really no excuse. This game was just really terrible. Either way, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe to learn what these YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, that's it. Good evening and good night.